Fairy Tail 100 Years Quest has been rapidly heating up as we are clearly on the pathway to the end, with Natsu reclaiming Igneo's flames, the Oración Sex being officially defeated, Igneo reopening the Eclipse Gate with the return of the Calamity Bloods, and now the most destructive threesome. The most destructive three-way fight between Natsu, Ignea, and Ferris taking place on top of Alderaan. Also, let's just take a moment to appreciate this banger chapter cover. Look at my goats doing some breakdancing. Okay, I see you. With that said, however, chapter 203 of Fairy Tail 100 Years Quest has been, dare I say, the most chaotic chapter yet. So today I'm going to be going in depth on everything that has happened and what this could possibly mean for future events. Before we get into that though, be sure to like, subscribe, and ring that bell to stay up to date, because we love anime and manga here, we love talking about anime and manga here, and we love talking about how much we love anime and manga here. I'm trying to grow this channel as much as possible, and a little community support would go a long way. So without further ado, let's get into the video. For the longest time, I've suspected that there was no way Ignea could be the final boss. I mean, he was introduced incredibly early, and despite him being portrayed as the strongest dragon god as well as definitely the last one to deal with, he still kind of ties into that group. And as we all know, when it comes to shonen, there's always gotta be separate powers at play. And especially once Ferris was introduced into the narrative, I figured that if there was one character that everyone had to team up against, it would be her. We have a new black wizard in town who's inherited Zeref's magic and fused part of ACNOLOGIA's body onto herself. Yeah, we're making something out of that. But the events that played out this chapter are not at all what I could have imagined in a million years. See, the chapter starts off with Fairy Tail's B team along with the Oración Seis running to escape the falling debris of Alderaan after the conclusion of their fight with the Oración Sex. Meanwhile, Gajiel and Midnight immediately recognizing that this destruction, at least in part, had to be Natsu's doing, and they're right because the main event is taking place close by. We got Natsu and Ignea kind of just flexing on each other and seeing who can use Igneo's flames better, and Natsu blitzing Ignea was actually kind of insane. I mean, we all know he got stronger, but he's moving like that now? Only for Ignea to not even be knocked off his feet and immediately blitz him right back with an even more powerful punch followed up with a massive fire breath attack. Bringing us back to the reality that while Natsu is incredibly strong, these new powers serve more as a way to put him on a tier capable of fighting these characters as opposed to something making him surpass them or even necessarily making him their direct equal. Further proven by the fact that he is now capable of consuming Ignea's flames from said breath attack as opposed to those flames consuming him. And I use that wording very specifically because Natsu was able to eat Ignea's flames at the start of 100 Years Quest, but it was slowly turning him into a dragon and he could not keep control, which is now different. It wasn't given a name, and I feel like it would be disingenuous to call it something that Natsu has already done in the past, so I'm just going to keep calling it the fire breath attack. But keep in mind, while these two have been showing off, Ferris is still there. And at this point, I really don't know if she's just clinically insane or if it's the spirit of ACNOLOGIA manifesting within her in some way. Because we see her arm throbbing as she watches them fight before mentioning the infuriating flames that stole half of my body. Obviously referring to Igneo tearing off that arm during the Grand Magic Games way back when. But what do you mean by my body? And what do you mean by half when you only have one arm? How much magic power is in that arm? Is this some kind of retroactive ACNOLOGIA upscale as if he needed one? These are all questions spiraling through my head as a result of a singular panel. But there's no time to really digest that before Ferris surprises everyone by letting loose one of ACNOLOGIA's signature moves, Eternal Flare. Yes, that one. Raining explosive projectiles down all over Alderaan, though I'm willing to bet obviously not to the same extent as ACNOLOGIA himself, but still with such destructive force that even Wendy and Lucy from significantly further away both mistook it for ACNOLOGIA. However, we see Mother Glare mention that an attack of this caliber will not affect Ignea, which I mean, kind of makes sense. I think we'd expect him to be more durable than that. Though I do want to mention that Mother Glare has literally not moved so much as an inch since she got there. Last we saw from the previous chapter, she was casually blocking all of Urza's attacks with her tail while standing still, and even now she still has not moved. She's not even looking at her, man. What level of disrespect is this to my glorious queen Urza Scarlet? Anyways, we do see Ignea, cocky as ever, appearing above Ferris in dragon form, basically saying that she's not worthy to speak ACNOLOGIA's name if this is the best she can do. Then proceeds to eat her. Yeah, that was not on my bingo card for this fight. But you know what else wasn't on my bingo card for this fight? Ferris pulling the Uno reverse card and absorbing Ignea from the inside out, stealing his body and turning herself into a dragon. Ladies and gentlemen, we now have a hybrid dragon god with the abilities of Zeref, Igneel, and ACNOLOGIA. And it's kind of poetic, really. I mean, we saw Ignea constantly talking this big game about how he wished he could have fought ACNOLOGIA so he could have beaten him. Well, guess what, buddy? Now you are ACNOLOGIA. Honestly, I don't really know how we're even gonna begin to deal with a cataclysmic power like this. Because initially going into this fight, despite all three combatants being roughly in the same tier of power, if you had asked me to rank them from weakest to strongest, I would have Natsu at the bottom, followed by Ignia in second place with Ferris at the top. Once again, Natsu's power up put him on a level to at least be able to have a fight rather than being wiped out immediately, but I'm not entirely convinced yet that it made him a true equal to Ignia by any means. Then I got Ferris above Ignia because for all intents and purposes, they have been portrayed as somewhat relative. And that's with the fact that Ferris has basically just been trolling this whole time, flexing the power of ACNOLOGIA to casually nullify everything else while hardly tapping into any of her actual offensive capabilities. All of that aside, however, we now have a fusion of those top two, throwing all the current scaling completely out the window. And that's not all the craziness from this chapter either, because we see off to the side a very angry and dying Alderaan who's incredibly upset at Ignia and Doggermog for getting his body destroyed. And with a final act of pettiness decides, screw you guys, I'm taking this continent with me. And he's not kidding, because as we know, Alderaan is directly connected to the continent of Giltina. So with a final ditch attack, we see several instances of dragon-shaped magic rising into the sky as the land itself is enveloped in a massive dragon hurricane. And yeah, I'm with you, Selene, I don't know what's happening anymore either. With the continent of Giltina seemingly being obliterated, where is our new battlefield? How is Natsu, or anybody for that matter, going to deal with this Neo-ACNOLOGIA? Just how much magic energy is in that arm of Ferris? Where is Diabolos? What is Bestia up to? How is Team Natsu gonna deal with Mother Glare? There's a chance we see a spirit battle play out between ACNOLOGIA and Ignia for control of his body. We could even see the return of END. Maybe Lucy's potential dragon slaying abilities with the help of Mercphobia will come into play in some way, shape, or form. So many questions we're left with, but the GOAT Hiro Mashima once again giving us a dang good meal. Still gotta wait some time before we get all these answers, but as always, if you guys like the content or just feel like supporting me as a creator, feel free to like, subscribe, and ring that bell because we like anime and manga here, we like talking about anime and manga here, and we like talking about how much we like anime and manga here. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm very hungry and I gotta go change that, so I hope y'all have a blessed day and I will see you in the next video.